The aroma of bleach and pine cleaner lingered on my skin as I set my keys down on the battered kitchen counter. It was nearing midnight. My back ached, my hands felt raw, and all I craved was a hot shower followed by 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep before repeating the same cycle. This was the existence my family believed I could never escape, a housekeeper living paycheck to paycheck, perpetually on the brink of burnout. In their eyes, I was the disappointment, the one who never achieved anything significant. For years, I allowed them to think that. I played the part they assigned me, quiet, unnoticed, struggling. What they didn't realize was that every mop I pushed and every toilet I scrubbed was a step towards something much greater, something beyond their imagination. The flickering light on my answering machine caught my attention. 3 new messages. I hit play and listened to the familiar voices fill the void. "Hey, Mandy," my sister Lisa chirped, her tone dripping with insincerity. "Just a reminder that Dad's birthday dinner is this Saturday. Don't forget it's at 6 ONG, not 7. Like last year, try not to be late this time." All right. Message 2. "Mandy, we're ordering from that nice steak place for dinner, so maybe eat before you come. I know it's probably not in your budget, sweetie." Message 3. My father's gruff voice came through. "Don't bring one of your weird thrift store gifts. Just show up, say happy birthday, and don't embarrass anyone." I stood there in silence, the sting of their words sharper than I cared to admit. They believed they were being helpful, even merciful. But every word was laced with judgment, a reminder of how they perceived my life, beneath them, barely surviving. They were unaware of the 4 companies I owned under the radar, or that I had made my first million 5 years ago, or that just last week, Forbes had reached out for an exclusive feature on the hidden mogul who built an empire from the shadows. I hadn't replied yet, not from hesitation, but because I was finally ready. It all began a decade ago at that same dinner table where Dad would later say, "Pathetic girl, still cleaning other people's houses." 10 years ago, I was 23, fresh out of a toxic relationship, broke and desperate. I dropped out of college to care for my grandmother, who raised me, while no one else in the family stepped in. They were too busy climbing their shiny ladders in finance, law, marketing, respectable careers. When Grandma passed, I was alone. No savings, no degree, and 0 direction. I took the only job available, cleaning houses. It started as a temporary measure to pay rent. Then one day I cleaned for a woman named Evelyn Kane. She was gracious, from an old money background, and she saw something in me that no one else had. "You're sharp," she remarked one day as I organized her chaotic filing system in under an hour. "Why waste your brain scrubbing floors?" I told her I didn't have the luxury of dreaming big. She chuckled softly and handed me a book, The Lean Startup. I devoured it that night and then read 5 more just like it. Something shifted within me. I began waking up an hour earlier to read, listening to podcasts while I cleaned, observing how successful people lived, what they outsourced, and how they organized their lives. Slowly, a thought formed. What if I created a business that offered more than just home cleaning? What if I redefined home services as high-end, streamlined, tech-driven, tailored for the very clients I served? So, I did. I saved every extra dollar I could, slept on a mattress on the floor in a shared apartment, and lived on rice and eggs for months. After a year of 14-hour workdays, I launched Clarity Living, a premier home management company offering everything from cleaning to concierge services, staffed by vetted professionals trained in discretion, organization, and luxury standards. I kept it a secret from everyone, my parents, my siblings. I didn't want their doubts or their voices in my head. I simply worked. 6 weeks later, I signed my first client, a tech investor in Beverly Hills. He referred me to 4 more clients. By year 2, I had a team of 12. By year 3, we expanded to New York. By year 5, I was pulling in $10 million annually. Yet, at family dinners, I still let Lisa brag about her advertising job, allowed Mom to slip me coupons, and watched. Dad shake his head whenever I mentioned entrepreneurial ventures. They thought I was weak, that I had given up. But I was constructing something far bigger than any of them realized. And now, with the Forbes article set to air live this Sunday, the same day as Dad's birthday dinner, the truth was about to hit them like a tidal wave. They wouldn't see it coming, and I wouldn't say a word until they saw my face on the screen with the words billionaire housekeeper turned CEO beneath it. The parking lot of the upscale Italian restaurant was already full when I pulled in behind a sleek black Range Rover. I sat in my car for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, watching the valet hustle under the warm glow of golden string lights. Technically, I didn't have to be there. I could have skipped the dinner and let the Sunday morning news speak for itself, but part of me wanted to witness their expressions as everything unfolded. I wanted to remember every smirk and side-eye so that the moment of truth would hit just as it needed to. Plus, it was the last time they'd ever see me as lesser. I stepped out of my car, a modest, older sedan I kept for appearances. No one would suspect that the woman behind the wheel had a collection of luxury vehicles stashed away in a private garage across the city. I handed the keys to the valet with a nod and entered the restaurant. "Mandy!" Lisa's voice rang out, sweetened with insincerity. She stood to greet me, arms wide open. "You're on time. I'm shocked." I forced a smile. "Happy birthday, Dad." He barely glanced up from the menu. "You look tired." "Long day of cleaning?" I replied. And there it was. The jab he'd been waiting to throw the moment I walked in. He didn't even bother to conceal the smirk. I felt heat rise in my chest, but smiled instead. You could say that. Mom leaned in to pat my hand. "We're just glad you could make it. We know your job keeps you busy." Busy? That's what she called overseeing 3 regional managers and negotiating contracts with luxury developers across 2 continents. Sure, busy. As the server arrived to take our orders, Lisa launched into another monologue about her big pitch to a new client. Something about a tech brand and influencer outreach. She tossed her hair like it was a scene from a movie. "So," she said, turning to me, "how's the cleaning business?" I took a sip of my water. "It's growing." Dad snorted into his whiskey. "Must be nice not having to think. Just clean and go." Simple life. There was a time when that would have broken me. When I would have gone home and cried into a pillow, questioning if I'd made a mistake by staying quiet. But not tonight. Tonight, I smiled and nodded. Simple, yes, but effective. The waiter returned with wine and appetizers, and the conversation shifted to Olivia's new promotion at her marketing firm and Marcus's move into a bigger house. I listened patiently as they applauded themselves, ensuring to throw an occasional pitying glance my way. It felt almost theatrical. Then Lisa reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. "Did you guys see what's airing tomorrow on the Forbes Sunday Spotlight?" she asked, scrolling. Apparently they're doing this huge profile on some self-made billionaire, a woman too, former housekeeper of all things. Can you believe that? I nearly choked on my drink. "What's her name?" I asked casually. She tilted the screen. "Mandy Rhee." The table fell silent for a moment. My mother blinked. "Mandy Rhee?" "Wait," Marcus said slowly. "Isn't that the same first name?" "Probably a coincidence," Dad interrupted, waving his hand dismissively. "No way. It's our Mandy." Lisa laughed. "Yeah, right. Can you imagine?" She pointed at me, her laughter rising. "From mop to millions. I mean, no offense, sis, but you're not exactly Forbes material." "No offense taken," I said with a small shrug. "You never know who's out there building in silence." The irony was suffocating. They were sitting across from the woman they were about to watch on national television the very next morning. The woman they dismissed, diminished, and doubted without having the slightest clue. The evening dragged on, filled with veiled insults, empty compliments, and overcooked steak. But I endured it all because tomorrow everything would change. After we sang happy birthday and posed for photos, I stood to leave. "Leaving already?" Dad asked, cutting into his tiramisu with the edge of his fork. "Early day tomorrow," I replied. "Work never stops." "Still cleaning toilets?" He smirked. "Something like that." I smiled. As I walked to the door, Lisa called after me. "Hey, bring gloves next time. You could clean my apartment while you're here." I stopped, turned slightly, and gave her a smile that meant everything and nothing at once. "See you tomorrow," I said. They thought I meant brunch, but I meant when their screens lit up with my face, when the world would know who I was before my own family ever did, and when the Rolls-Royce parked out front would finally make sense. Sunday morning arrived crisp and clear, the sunlight pouring into my penthouse suite high above the city. I stood at the floor-to-ceiling window, coffee in hand, watching the world below. Normally, Sundays were quiet for me, restful, but not today. Today was showtime. I turned up the volume on my TV. It was exactly 8:58 a.m. The countdown for the Forbes Sunday Spotlight ticked away in the corner of the screen. I had seen the final cut of the segment twice, but this time I wanted to watch it live. Not for me, but for them. Because I knew exactly what my family was doing right now. Dragging themselves out of bed, brewing coffee, nursing mild hangovers, from the birthday wine, and flipping on the news just in time to see something that would shake them to their core. The intro music swelled. Today, we bring you the story of a woman who redefined success, built a billion-dollar company from scratch, and kept it all a secret, even from her own family. Meet Mandy Rhee, founder and CEO of Clarity Living. There it was. My full name, spoken with weight and reverence. I took a breath. On screen, the camera panned over our Manhattan headquarters. Sleek design, glass walls, a logo gleaming like gold. Then a shot of me walking confidently through the lobby. Dressed, in a sharp white suit, heels clicking on the marble floor. My voice played over the footage. People thought I was just a housekeeper. They didn't know I was building an empire. The segment continued, showcasing testimonials from clients, interviews with my executive team, even footage of the early days. Me scrubbing countertops, organizing storage closets, hand-printing flyers. Then came the money shot. A list of cities where Clarity Living now operated. New York, Los Angeles, Miami, Chicago, London, Dubai. 6 continents, over 300 employees, valued at $3.2 billion. I could picture them now. Dad dropping his coffee. Mug. Lisa's jaw going slack. Mom gasping loud enough to wake the neighbors. I had given no warning, no hint, not even a breadcrumb. Then the final scene played. Me stepping out of a black Rolls Royce, sunglasses on as a reporter asked, "Why keep it a secret for so long?" I turned to the camera and smiled. Because success doesn't need validation. And sometimes the sweetest part of the journey is watching the ones who doubted you realize they never really knew you at all. Fade to black. I didn't have to wait 5 minutes. My phone exploded, calls, texts, emails, voicemails, social media tags, and then the group chat lit up. "Mom, Mandy, we just saw the news. Is this true?" "Lisa, wait, what? This is you? Why didn't you tell us?" "Marcus, holy Mandy, you're on Forbes. How long has this been going on?" "Dad, we need to talk now." I stared at the screen, letting the messages stack up. My coffee had gone cold, but I didn't care. I walked to the garage, phone still buzzing in my hand. My real car, a 2024 Rolls-Royce Ghost, gleamed under the overhead lights. I slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. They had questions, of course, but I had answers. And today, they weren't going to hear them through text or in some awkward phone call. They were going to see them, feel them, because today I was going to visit the same people who had laughed at me just hours ago. This time, I'd arrive in a car they only dreamed about, dressed in clothes from designers they couldn't pronounce, and walking in not as their family embarrassment, but as the very woman the entire world was suddenly talking about. As I drove through the suburbs toward my parents' house, I reflected on the years I had spent holding back. Every family dinner, every smug comment, every time I bit my tongue instead of revealing the truth. I didn't regret the silence. The anonymity had provided me clarity, space to grow. But now, it was time to speak with presence. I turned onto their street, the same tree-lined cul-de-sac I had once left behind with a duffel bag and no plan. Kids played in front yards. Neighbors watered their lawns. I imagined the chatter that would spread once they saw the Rolls-Royce pull up. I parked in front of the house, took a breath, and stepped into the sunlight. Mom opened the front door before I reached the steps. She looked pale, shocked, mascara slightly smudged. "Mandy?" she whispered. "Is it all true?" I smiled gently and held up my phone where the Forbes article headline still glowed. "You tell me." The air inside the house felt heavier than usual, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Mom backed away as I stepped into the foyer. Her eyes scanned me, trying to comprehend what she was seeing. I could tell she hadn't slept. Her blouse was wrinkled, her hair hastily pinned back, and her voice trembled as she asked, Why didn't you tell us, Mandy? Before I could respond, Dad appeared in the hallway, his eyes locked on mine, and for the first time, he seemed unsure of what to say. Mandy, he started. What the hell is going on? I walked past them both into the living room, my heels clicking against the hardwood floor. I sat down on the same couch where I had once curled up as a teenager, grounded for refusing to change my major, where Dad told me I'd wasted my life when I turned down a receptionist job at his friend's insurance firm. Now I was worth more than his entire network of colleagues combined. Mom and Dad followed me in. Dad remained standing, arms crossed, posture rigid. Mom sank into the armchair as if her legs couldn't support her anymore. Lisa and Marcus arrived 15 minutes later, clearly having read all the messages in the family. Group chat. Lisa looked flustered, her designer purse swinging from her arm like an accessory she didn't know how to use anymore. Mandy, she said breathlessly, this whole time you've been what? Living a double life? Marcus sat, down across from me, blinking. I Googled you, Mandy Ree. It's all real? You're clarity living? I nodded calmly. Yes, I am. But you let us think you were struggling, Lisa said. You let us believe you were broke. No, I corrected her. You chose to believe that. I never told you I was broke. I just didn't correct you when you assumed I was. You drove that beat-up car, Dad snapped. You wore thrift store clothes. You asked us to go easy on your birthday gifts. What were we supposed to think? That maybe I didn't care about appearances, I replied. I didn't need validation through labels and luxury to know my worth. Lisa scoffed. That's rich coming from someone who just rolled up in a Rolls Royce. I leaned forward. The car wasn't for me. It was for you so you'd finally see me. Because let's be honest, if I had shown up in my work clothes from the company I own or said I was investing in real estate across 3 countries, you wouldn't have believed me. Dad opened his mouth, but for once, nothing came out. You know what really hurt? I said quietly, my eyes still on him. It wasn't the assumptions. It was how easily all of you believed I had failed. How none of you ever asked what I was passionate about, what I was building. It was easier to mock the housekeeper than to imagine I had dreams worth pursuing. Silence filled the room. Then Marcus said, But why keep it a secret? Why not tell us? We're your family. I turned to him slowly. Remember when Grandma got sick? I dropped out of school to take care of her. You all told me it was irresponsible, that I was throwing away my future. But I didn't care. I owed her everything. She believed in me when no one else did. And when she passed, I had nothing. Not one of you offered help. Not a place to stay. Not even a word of encouragement. Mom flinched but didn't deny it. So I started working, cleaning houses. One of my clients saw something in me. She gave me a book and a chance. That chance became an idea. The idea became a company. The company became a global brand. I paused, letting the silence linger. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to fight for your approval. I wanted to build something for myself. And now that I have, now that the world knows, I wanted you to see it, not just hear about it. See it. Lisa shifted in her seat. I thought you were just trying to find yourself. I found myself a long time ago, I said. You just never looked close enough to notice. Dad finally sat down, looking strangely small. So what now? You just rub it in our faces? No, Dad, I said, my voice steady. I'm not here to humiliate anyone. I'm here because, for once, I want you to really know who I am. And because tonight there's a dinner at the Paramount. Lisa's brows knitted together in confusion. The Paramount. That exclusive place with the 6-month waiting list? I nodded simply. I own it now. I've reserved it for us. Private chef, full staff, top floor. We're going to sit around a table again, but this time the conversation will be different. Mom looked like she might cry. We don't deserve this. I smiled softly. Maybe not, but I didn't do all this to punish you. I did it to prove something, that success doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, builds, waits, and then it reveals itself on its own terms. The elevator ride to the top floor of the Paramount was enveloped in silence. My family stood around me, visibly uncomfortable in the mirrored lift, their reflections, revealing versions of themselves they didn't quite recognize. Even Lisa, who usually shone in any social setting, clutched her purse like a security blanket, her eyes darting around the luxurious interior. She hadn't spoken since we arrived. When the elevator doors slid open, a private host welcomed us with a polite smile. "Welcome, Ms. Rhee. The dining room is ready." We stepped into a space I had redesigned just 2 months prior. Glass walls overlooked the city skyline. A long black marble table glimmered under soft pendant lights. A private string quartet played faintly in the corner. The room radiated elegance, but tonight wasn't about wealth. It was about clarity. They needed to see without a shadow of a doubt who I had become. The server gestured for everyone to take a seat. As we settled in, my mother leaned toward me. "Mandy, this place is breathtaking." I nodded with a calm smile. "It's my favorite view in the city. It reminds me of how far I've come." Dad cleared his throat, his eyes roaming the room. "This is a lot." "It's not about showing off," I replied. "It's about showing you what you never saw." The servers moved silently, placing custom menus printed with each guest's name in gold foil. Beside each one, I had placed a sealed envelope. I waited until the wine had been poured, and the first course, lobster risotto, was served. Then I spoke. "Before we eat, I'd like everyone to open the envelope in front of them." They looked at me, puzzled. Then, one by one, they peeled open the paper. Lisa gasped first. Inside her envelope was a simple chart. 2 columns, Lisa's salary and Mandy's daily passive income. The second column dwarfed the first. At the bottom was a polite footnote. "This is only from 2 of my 8 revenue streams." Her hands trembled as she folded the paper and set it down. Marcus's envelope held an email from 4 years ago when I had quietly reached out to his firm under an alias, offering an investment opportunity into Clarity Living. His reply, filled with corporate jargon, politely rejected the offer, stating, "Home services are not scalable." Below it was a note. That $100,000 opportunity would be worth $17.4 million today. He looked up at me, pale. "Mandy, I didn't know it was you." "I know," I replied. "That's why I never took it personally." Mom's envelope contained a list of every time I had asked her and Dad to believe in me, to support an idea, to attend. A gallery showing when I was cleaning to support my art, and to co-sign a small loan for startup capital. All declined. Attached was a photo of my first office space, modest, tiny, and completely self-funded. Her eyes filled with tears. Dad's envelope was the thinnest, just a single sheet of paper, a screenshot of the Forbes front page. He stared at it for a long time, his jaw tight. Then he spoke, his voice lower than usual. I was wrong. I thought I knew everything, but I didn't know my own daughter. I met his eyes. "You saw what you wanted to see, Dad. A girl who didn't follow your rules. So, instead of asking why, you assumed I was lost." He nodded slowly, and for the first time in my adult life, my father looked genuinely remorseful. Dinner continued with an unfamiliar quietness. No bragging, no lectures, just reflection. After dessert chocolate souffle with raspberry drizzle, I stood and walked to the large screen behind the table. "I want to show you one last thing," I said. The lights dimmed as a presentation began to play. Photos from my journey flickered on the screen. Me cleaning homes, me sleeping on the floor with books stacked around me, the tiny office where Clarity Living was born, my first company retreat, my first Forbes cover, my first apartment with central heat. Each image matched with a headline, some from the press, some from old emails and texts from my family. "You're wasting your life. Maybe try community college next semester. Mandy needs to get real." Then the final frame appeared. A photo of me at age 23, smiling with my grandmother in our old kitchen side by side. Below it, the words, "She believed in me when no one else did." I turned back to them. This wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. I'm not angry anymore. I don't need apologies. But I do need you to stop pretending I was ever less than. No one spoke for a long time. Then my mother stood and walked to me, tears silently streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "not just for not seeing you, but for not looking in the first place." I hugged her tightly. "Thank you. That's all I ever wanted." As the music swelled and the city sparkled behind us, I realized this wasn't just a dinner. It was a reckoning, and perhaps the beginning of something new. A week had passed since the dinner at the Paramount, and the world hadn't stopped talking. Articles were still going viral. My inbox overflowed with partnership requests, offers to write a memoir, podcast invites, and investment proposals. I'd been named one of Forbes' most influential women of the year and was now booked for a keynote speech at a global innovation summit. But the spotlight wasn't what kept me awake at night. It was the stillness, the silence after the storm, the strange quiet that follows a lifetime of noise, of proving, of chasing something just to show others you could, and then realizing you've already arrived. I sat on the terrace of my brownstone, one my family didn't know about. It was simpler than the penthouse, quieter, with ivy on the walls and an old stone fountain bubbling gently nearby. My dog, a gentle old rescue named Luna, lay curled beside me. She didn't care about net worths or business empires, just that I was home. The phone buzzed beside me. It was a text from Dad. "Saw your TED Talk. You were incredible. Wish I'd listened to you sooner. Proud of you, Mandy. Truly." I stared at the message for a while, unsure how to respond. It didn't erase everything, the years of condescension, the disregard, but it was something, a start, a bridge being built, tentatively, but intentionally. A notification popped up. Forbes interview live in 20 minutes. I glanced at the clock. Just enough time. I walked inside and changed into a simple blouse and jeans. No stylists, no prep team, no designer heels, just me. Because after everything, I'd finally earned the right to be fully myself, on camera or off. I joined the virtual call and the host greeted me with a grin. "Mandy Ree, thank you for being here." "Happy to," I replied. "We've had a huge response to your story," he continued. "Millions have watched your journey unfold, but one question keeps coming up. What made you keep going when everyone, especially your own family, seemed to doubt you?" I thought for a moment, then smiled. "You don't need everyone to believe in you, just one person, and sometimes that one person has to be you." He nodded. "And if you could go back and say something to your younger self in that tiny apartment cleaning houses, what would you tell her?" I felt a lump rise in my throat. I'd tell her that it's okay to feel invisible, that sometimes invisibility is a gift. It lets you build without pressure, grow without judgment, and rise without interference. And when you're ready, when the time is right, you won't need to announce your success. You'll just arrive, and the world will have no choice but to see you. The interview ended, and I sat in the quiet again, letting it all sink in. That afternoon, I drove to the cemetery. I hadn't been in a while. The sun filtered through the trees as I stood in front of my grandmother's grave. I brushed a few fallen leaves off the headstone and placed fresh tulips in the vase beside it, her favorite. "Hi, Grandma," I said softly. "You were right about everything." I pulled the original flyer for Clarity Living from my purse, the one I printed 10 years ago at a 24-hour coffee shop, shaking with doubt and hope in equal measure. I placed it gently against the stone and whispered, "We made it." That night, back in the penthouse, I hosted a small dinner. Not for investors, not for the press, just friends. People who'd believed in me when I had nothing to offer but drive. My first employee, my best friend from college, Evelyn Kane, the woman who gave me the lean startup, and saw a spark in the cleaning girl others overlooked. We laughed, shared, wine, talked about the future, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I had anything to prove. Later, as I looked out over the glittering skyline, my phone buzzed again. A new message in the family group chat. "Mom, next Sunday is our turn. Family dinners at our place. You don't have to bring anything, just you. And if it's okay, maybe you could tell us more about what you're building. We want to learn." Finally, I smiled. There was no victory parade, no explosion of confetti, just quiet understanding and a slow, steady unraveling of the old story they had written about me. Because I hadn't just changed my life, I had rewritten the narrative, from pathetic housekeeper to self-made mogul, from invisible daughter to unignorable force. And maybe, just maybe, the most powerful kind of revenge is simply becoming everything they said you couldn't be.